Hello, and thanks for joining me on Loqpod. My name's Katy Ringsdore, and today I'm joined by Guy Rigby. Now, you may remember from a previous episode that Guy and his friend David Murray were attempting to cross the Atlantic and set a new world record whilst rowing. They did it in 53 days, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have Guy join me today on Loqpod. Thank you for joining me again on Loqpod, Guy. I mean, last time I spoke to you, you were about to set sail across the Atlantic, rowing, and you've done it. I mean, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
How was it? Tell me a little bit about the adventure.
Well, I don't know where to begin, really. Obviously, we since we've last spoken, I was away for the best part of 3 months. A couple of weeks preparing in La Gomera. We wondered what we were going to do, kicking our heels in La Gomera for a couple of weeks in the Canaries. But actually, it turned out that we were really busy all the time and packing the boat, unpacking the boat, repacking the boat, buying bits and pieces, getting the final things organised. And then finally, of course, race day arrived on the 12th of December, and we all set off 5 minutes apart. That was quite an emotional moment, leaving all the family on the quay, I have to say. The rest is history, really. We set off. We were one of the most southerly boats, if not the most southerly boat. We tried to avoid some weather coming from the northwest. So we went all the way down the coast of Africa, a few hundred miles off it, mind you, and then turned west when we hit 17 degrees of latitude, which is where Antigua is, and just kept going, really. And we got there in 53 days, 3 hours and 42 minutes as the new world record holder.
Incredible. Yeah, new world record holders, 53 days at sea. You spent Christmas and New Year at sea. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, obviously, there were a few emotional moments because we had satellite phones and things like that to communicate with. So, yeah, it was a little bit sad being out there on Christmas Day, speaking to family at home, all together and having fun. And there we were out there, braced against the elements, really. But it was absolutely fine. I mean, honestly, we trained for it. We'd mentally prepared for it. And we just needed to do it. It was just, it was like 2 hours on, 2 hours off. And every 2 hour session that you were on, you were thinking, well, 5 miles, and then I could eat and sleep, and then round we go again, really. Amazing.
Well, I remember when I was speaking to you and I came up to see you, you were talking to me about the psychological training you'd been going through, and training yourselves to eat, and obviously the physical training, and you were trying to kind of put on lots of weight because, I mean, looking at the photos and the videos of you guys crossing the line, my goodness, you lost a lot of weight during your trip. Did it kind of work out the way you expected it to? Any major surprises? And how was the food?
Well, yeah, I hated the food to begin with. And then I got used to it, and then I quite liked it, funnily enough. But I didn't eat enough. I mean, David was better than me at this. He was a bit heavier to start with. He lost 8 kilograms during the row, which was, I think, 10% of his body weight, or just under. I lost 10 kilograms, which was 13% of my body weight. So quite a big deal from that point of view. But mentally as well, we've been. Every time I was sort of feeling a bit down, I would think positive thoughts. We were taught these 4 positives, which positive thoughts, positive actions, positive interactions, and positive purpose. And I could attach nice things, nice thoughts to all of those, and that made me feel better. The thing that I can't get my head around, looking back on it, is how it was 53 days, because it just doesn't feel like that. Looking back on it, how did we do 320 2-hour sessions each on the oars over that time? It just doesn't feel like that amount of time,
Tracking you was just fantastic, and kind of seeing the visuals that your team were putting out there so we could see exactly where you were was just absolutely epic. And it was a bit addictive, actually. It was like watching a soap on TV that you couldn't stop, connecting with. It was fantastic. I mean, I think when we spoke, you said you kind of expected a few tricky moments with waves and potential capsizing. Did you have any moments like that as you expected?
We had one or two moments with waves. We didn't capsize, I'm very pleased to say. I think we had so much kit on the boat. She was so weighed down that it would have been difficult to capsize her, actually. But we had, David particularly had a sideways on road wave in the middle of the night, which broke the part of the oar and snapped the rollock in half. And knocked him sideways basically into the loo bucket. So that was a bit unfortunate.
Oh, no.
And shook him up quite a lot. I had the most amazing experience of a road wave rowing at night. It hit us absolutely on the stern of the boat, which couldn't be a better place, obviously. And it exploded. And all I saw was tons of water, literally tons and tons of water going past me each side and over my head. Dropped about a bucket of water in the boat and was gone. And it was just one huge wave, and we punched a hole straight through it, basically.
Wow.
So that was pretty exciting. We did have a few moments in rough weather when the auto helm stopped working. That's the thing that keeps you on track, basically. The moment that goes off, you go sideways onto the waves, and we were being tossed around with waves breaking over us. And actually, one of those happened just as we were literally on a satellite phone call about to start an interview with the BBC. And I literally, all the alarms started going off, and I just had to say to the BBC, I'm terribly sorry. We're about to start the interview, but I've got to go. Goodbye.
Yeah. Safety first, priority is safety, yeah.
Yeah, well, there was nothing we could do, really. As David was saying, for God's sake, get off the phone,
Yeah, exactly. And I think I saw at one point David had his snorkel and mask on doing some maintenance to Lily's the boat, by the way, to the boat midway through. I mean, that must have been just odd for him and for you as well.
He did it. He actually went over the side 3 times, I think. I was on sharp watch. To be honest, it needed someone of his athletic strength to do that, because it's a hell of a job. You get over the side of the boat. Obviously, we tied him on with a rope. The rope was tied to the boat. I was also holding the rope, and I was on sharp watch. But the reason he went over was to knock all the barnacles off the bottom, because they grow at an enormous rate and really slow you down. So we did that twice. And the biggest problem is not getting off the boat or necessarily doing the barnacles, although that's exhausting. It's actually getting back on the boat afterwards. And I think that I'd have needed to have been dragged out, to be honest, if I'd done it. So he very kindly did that. He went over twice, 3 times. The third time we thought we had something caught around the rudder because we were going so slowly, but that turned out to be currents as opposed to a plastic bag or something like that. So. But yeah, that was David swimming.
Brilliant. And I can imagine, trying to get back on the boat. It's a moving vessel, and it's quite a distance between, the top and the sea. It's really odd. And I think unless you actually see the boat, you don't really understand how difficult that must be.
It was really, really challenging for him. It really was. But he did it. No problem.
What a superstar. And you very casually mentioned there you were on Shark Watch.
Yes.
Did you see anything exciting, animal-wise?
Not really. I mean, we saw much less than we were hoping for. We saw, as we were going down the African coast, we heard quite a lot of whales, particularly in the night. They would come up and blow, beside us. We saw a mother and calf quite near the boat one morning that had obviously been hanging around us overnight. And we saw one other whale. We saw a few turtles float past, quite a lot of Portuguese men of war, 1 or 2 pods of dolphins that roared past us that didn't stop and play, unfortunately. And quite a lot of seabirds. They were constant, literally the whole way across. We had these different types of birds that obviously live out there and fish and rest on the water and all that sort of stuff. So that was amazing. But not quite as much wildlife as we'd hoped.
And what did you and David talk about? I mean, you think about 53 days. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're with, whether it's a colleague, your partner, your best friend, your dog. At some point, you're going to run out of things to talk about. Was there ever a moment where you were just like, oh, I've had enough of you now?
I'm sure we both felt like that at times. But we obviously, there's quite a lot of solo quiet rowing because, it's particularly during the night, the changeover happens and the person who's coming off the shift just goes straight to bed. So there's no chit chat then. There might be a couple of minutes on the changeover, but that's it really. So we used to do, and basically you've got to remember that 12 to 13 hours a day is in darkness. So the other 12 hours a day, let's say, we would often, one person would cook, the other would row, we'd chat about all sorts of things, our families. David's dad, Richard, who was a great friend of mine, was a regular topic of conversation. We listened to a lot of music, one or two, David listened to quite a few ebooks, and I listened to one or two. I decided I'd listen to the Harry Potter series for the first time, never read them, never seen the films really, so I did quite enjoy some of them actually.
They're quite good, aren't they? I was a bit of an anti-Harry Potter.
They are a little bit.
They're quite good.
They're a little bit focused towards the kids, I think. But I did have some enjoyment from them. We listened to a hell of a lot of music as well.
Oh, I bet you did. Have you got a theme tune to the, or a song in particular that you now listen back to and go, gosh, that reminds me of the trip? Is there anything that really?
Quite a few actually, because I had a restricted. I think I had about 4,000 songs on my phone or something. But believe it or not, you go through them pretty damn quickly, particularly the ones you like.
Yes, I bet.
And the most exciting rowing I did was to Status Quo and their Riffs album, which is all rock and roll, and really got me going. It made me feel like a young chap again, really.
Love it. I can imagine. Was there any other point, Guy, where you were just like, oh, do you know what? I just want to stop now? Or, I mean, I know we talked about, obviously, the positivity and, I think you've got a very strong mindset, which is brilliant, the pair of you. But was there ever a point where you just thought, oh, I'll give up?
Not give up, but there were points where we got fed up, and that was towards the end. I mean, at the beginning, you can't think about the end, right? Because if you try and think about something that's 50 days ahead of you or 50, 60 days ahead of you, that would be incredibly depressing. So you literally think, I've got 2 hours, I'll do my 5 miles, I'll eat and I'll sleep, and then I'll do it all again. And you don't really think much beyond that. But obviously, after about 35, 40 days, some of your mates who are in the bigger boats, the quads, i.e. four rowers as opposed to 2, are actually arriving in Antigua, and we're aware of that because we have calls with the safety officer. We're in touch with people at home, one way or another. So we know exactly what's going on. And so the jealousy starts creeping in. My God, they're there having a lovely time and we're still out here 500 miles away or more. But the real challenge, I mean, we thought at one point we were going to have an exceptional time. We thought we were going to get there in 49 days. We ended up doing it in 53. And the reason that we didn't do it in 49 days is that about 10 days out from Antigua, or what we thought was 10 days out, turned out to be 2 weeks, we were hit by these adverse currents and we were just stopped dead in our tracks. So normally when you get to that point in the row, you've got big trade winds behind you, you've got big surfing waves, and you're going like a train. We were absolutely stopped dead. And I remember one day, the people near us did about 60, 65 miles, and we did 24. And it was so depressing.
Oh, I bet.
You never felt like giving up. And honestly, it was all worth it in the end because coming into Antigua was just magic.
And actually, I'd love to know more about that moment when you can see the land. And I saw some photos that have been posted of, the fact that you could see the land just in sight. I mean, the excitement must have been immense. But when you eventually crossed that finish line, I mean, try to just, I can't imagine you'll be able to. I get goosebumps thinking about it, but how did it feel crossing that line?
It was just the most incredible thing. I mean, it was just, after all that time, I mean, coming into the harbour was amazing because we could hear our family cheering from, the old fort, as it were, as you come into English Harbour. There were little boats whizzing around, absolutely overladen with people all cheering. We came in past the row of super yachts and they all blew off their horns to welcome us. We rode past a row of restaurants and they were playing We Are the Champions and dancing on the tables. And then we arrived at the quay and there were like 250 people waiting for us. It was just the most extraordinarily emotional time. It was fantastic.
Oh, I can imagine. And then stepping off the boat, I mean, how long did it take you to feel normal again? Because, I mean, I've done a bit of sailing, but nothing to the extreme of your rowing. And it's quite difficult to kind of get your land feet back and your balance back. How long did it take you to kind of feel normal again and get back into a regular way of life?
Well, there are three things that happen when you get off the boat. First is you do realise you cannot walk. So we were staggering about. And although it improves marginally every day, it probably took me the best part of a month to get over that, which I was incredibly surprised about. I mean, I came home after, 10 days or something, and the following week I went for a bike ride, fell off. Just couldn't get that balance right. The other thing is when you step off the boat, I was foolish enough to wear sort of moccasin flat-soled shoes. And 2 days in, I couldn't walk because my calf muscles just absolutely were searing agony. Your calf muscles literally disappear when you row.
Wow, yeah.
For that length of time. So that was a really good lesson in evolution for me, how that all works. And the final bit that I've still got problems with is my hands, actually. So your hands, it's not blisters on them, but your hands just you can't sort of curl them up. You can't grip anything. It's not claw hands because that's when you've got a claw and can't straighten it. The hands are perfectly straight. It's actually closing your hands that's the problem. But they're all getting better. It just takes forever and ever to do it. Apparently that's going to happen I'm still going to have this for another month or two.
Wow.
And then that should see the end of it. It's a bit like, I imagine it's a bit like arthritis or something like that.
Yeah, or repetitive strain injury. I mean, you can imagine, 53 days of gripping like that. Your hands are probably going, thank goodness, I don't have to do that anymore. I refuse to open a jar,
Yeah.
Have you been on a boat? Have you been on a boat again since? Are you planning to row anymore, Guy? Are you going to do it again?
Oh, well, I've been on my rowing machine. The weather hasn't really been perfect for rowing on the river yet, so I will be starting that hopefully in the next week or so. That's sculling, and double sculls, single sculls, etc. No, I certainly want to get back on boats. I'm probably not going to row another ocean. I wouldn't have thought. I think when you've done that, you wake up every day. It's the same sky, it's the same sea. There's not a hell of a lot to look at. We've been through the waves, the rain, the squalls, the sun, all that sort of stuff. Why would I do it again?
Well, quite. And you have a world record.
And we have a world record, yeah. I think David, my fellow rowing partner, may well do it again, or something similar again. He's talking about doing a trio and trying to do the oldest three to go across on a competitive basis. But we'll see. We'll see.
TBC. And what about Lily? Where's the boat now?
So Lily was sold before we went. She was actually sold to the chief safety officer of the race, a chap called Ian, who he took delivery of her in Antigua with a view to taking her on to the west coast of the States to row from Monterey to Hawaii with a rowing partner. But unfortunately, his plans didn't come off. I think the rowing partner couldn't continue for some reason. So she's back. She's back in Burnham on Crouch in Essex. I've just seen a picture of her on a trailer. But she no longer belongs to us, which I'm rather sad about. Actually.
I bet, because I can imagine you become quite attached to the vessel.
You do. She was a lovely boat. She looked after us really, really well.
And just finally, Guy, obviously the most important thing here is raising money for Unlimited, your charity of choice, which is encouraging entrepreneurs of the future and people that may not have access to, the likes of funding or experience. And it's a fantastic charity. Where are you on the fundraise? Because I know you had some amazing targets and you were doing incredibly well, but I'd love to know where you're at now and what the target is with, between now and whenever.
Yeah, well, I think, firstly, I think we've probably just about come to the end. There's a trickle now of funding still coming in, but we never really expected it to go much beyond the end of March. People have been incredibly generous. We've raised a couple of 100,000 in sponsorship, and we've raised over $500,000 in donations. So we are actually now, in fact, I got a call a couple of weeks ago from the charity saying, Guy, you'll be pleased to know that as of today, you've raised £750,001.
Wow, that's amazing.
So we've done really well. I think we're probably 755, something like that now. And I think we are, we're on the last knockings. But listen, if they gave 15 to 20,000 to each entrepreneur they back, and each entrepreneur beneficially impacts the lives of over 300 people, as they believe, then we've certainly done a lot to help the community.
I couldn't agree with you more. And, after speaking to the charity as well about the great stuff you guys have been doing and other people raising money for their charity, it's a fantastic cause, and it's, helping people that just wouldn't have access to so many things. It's incredible. So well done. Guy, thank you so much. Congratulations again. World record holders. You've crossed the Atlantic. I'm incredibly proud of you as somebody I know, but I'm just in awe, if you excuse the pun. But thank you for talking to me on Loqpod again today, and well done to you and David.
You're very kind. Thank you very much.